The Faith and Fishing podcast is sponsored by 413 Lure Company. 413 Lure Company is a family-owned and operated business that puts Christ first and does things the right way. Using really high-quality components, they make some really awesome spinnerbaits, buzzbaits, bladed swim jigs, and more in some really sweet color combinations. Check them out on Facebook to see what they can do and place your order today. Welcome to the Faith and Fishing podcast, where you get to hear all kinds of fishermen tell their stories and share their faith. I'm your host, Cam Steele. Hey y'all, welcome back to the Faith and Fishing podcast. As always, I'm your host Cam, and this week we have another awesome interview with another awesome angler. But before we dive into it, just wanted to give a shout out to Josh4417 and Kayak, Bass, and Chris for their reviews on iTunes. That really helps the show grow, and don't worry Chris, I'll definitely be asking for more tips and lure favorites in the future. This week's interview deals in part with suicide, and if you listen to our introductory episode, you know that suicidal thoughts played a part in my story as well. I didn't spend a whole lot of time talking about it in that episode, but I do want to take a minute of this week's episode to encourage anyone who may be struggling with suicide in any way. Whether it's suicidal thoughts or attempts, or someone you know is struggling with it, please talk to someone. I don't care if it's a pastor, a friend, a parent, or a therapist, or if you feel like you don't have anyone, reach out to me. I'm on Facebook.com/faithandfishing, Instagram at faithandfishingpod, or you can email me at faith_fish@gmail.com. Whoever you reach out to, please reach out to someone. Even if you don't feel like it, there are so many people who will be affected and will miss you if you are not here. You are loved. And this feels like a great place to jump into the interview. This week we have Brandon Overstreet, who has served our country, is a tournament angler and director, and has started a brand new bait company, which just so happens to be our show sponsor, 413 Lure Company, and we are excited to have him. Brandon, man, welcome to the show.
Hey, I appreciate you having me, man. I really do.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, to get us started off, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to our listeners? Tell us a little bit about you and how you got into fishing.
All right, yeah. My name is Brandon Overstreet. I'm from Virginia, Central Virginia. I actually live at Smith Mountain Lake. It's a pretty well-known lake on the East Coast. It gets a lot of boat traffic, but it's a well-known fishing destination too, mainly for the stripers. But I got a wife and 3 kids. Of course, I'm a God-fearing man. I love Jesus Christ, and I love fishing. The last couple years, I've helped, with another kayak series here in Virginia, Virginia Kayak Bass Challenge, and in doing that, I put on a couple charity tournaments, me and a few other guys, and for Heroes on the Water, and another organization called Stay Strong Virginia. That's an organization that it helps families out that's going through eating disorders. And, one of my really good friends, Scott, his daughter has been going through, those struggles. So that was kind of dear to my heart to, really kind of raise some money for that organization and kind of get them, going good. And, they helped out Scott tremendously. And, so then this past year, this past winter, I got asked to head up a new series. It's called the Basscast Kayak Bass Series, and we started up that series and kind of to focus on beginners and kind of a Christ-backed series, focusing on beginners, getting the spouses out, the kids. We have like a women's division, we have a youth division, keeping the fees low, just kind of trying to grow the sport for more of a beginner, type of crowd.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that's kind of what I'm about. I love kayak fishing and helping people out, and you know, kind of heading up some series like that. I really feel like I can help a lot of people. Whether it's fishing or with Christ. It's been kind of my drive to really change some lives in the industry.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
so yeah. hmm
Yeah, that's awesome, man. So, you are actually the first guest I've had on that has mentioned Heroes on the Water. So, if we have
Yeah.
any listeners who aren't familiar with that, would you mind kind of going over that just a little bit?
Yeah. So Heroes on the Water is an organization that takes vets, veterans and first responders and their families out on kayak trips. They provide the kayaks, the fishing gear, and just to get them out, away from the crazy world that we live in, and just get them out into God's country. And they do offer to talk. They have a lot of volunteers that go through a lot of training to talk to these people. And it's not like they're there to pry, but they give them the opportunity. If you do want to talk, then they're trained to talk with these people and really just get them out fishing and just away from this crazy world. But they have organizations all over the United States. Usually you can find one in each state's region. We have one here locally, a Roanoke chapter out of Roanoke, Virginia, and that's a chapter that we help out. Yakutat actually helps Heroes on the Water. They have their big benefit tournament each year, and they raise a whole lot of money for Heroes on the Water. So it's really an organization that most all kayakers really take to heart. That's our organization that we really get behind and raise a lot of money for and volunteer for. And it's just something that's really dear to all of our hearts. So, and you'll find, a lot of us kayakers are prior military. So, it's real close stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. What was it that got you into to fishing from a kayak instead of a boat or instead of on the bank?
Well, I started fishing when I was younger. My dad, he really wasn't much of a fisherman. It just really wasn't his thing. My mom, she grew up fishing, but more of they didn't have money, and so fishing was a means to put food on the table for them growing up. And so, I was at a young age. I was 7. My parents split up, and I lived with my dad, and so I didn't really get to fish much. I only fished around my mom. When I go visit my mom, she had a pond in her backyard, so I'd hit up the pond every time I went to visit. I wanted to go visit more just so I could go fishing, and it really become a passion of mine. Just growing up with parents that had divorced, it was hard. It's hard on all kids, and so that was kind of my escape. From all that, I could just go and be in peace and quiet and fish. And so when I got older, I had like a little sit-in kayak, but it was more of a, leisure thing. I think I was about 20, and every now and then I carry a rod with me if I was just floating down a river with a group of friends, but it really wasn't all that serious. And I had met up with a good buddy of mine about 7 years ago, and he kayak fished leisurely. He didn't do the whole tournament things, but we found out about a charity tournament going on, and so we was like, well, let's go up there and spend the night and fish on the James River, which, you know, is a real popular river for us in Virginia. And so we went up there and spent the night and got to know a lot of the tournament guys. And so then the next day we got to fishing in the tournament, and it just fueled a absolute passion for me. I've always had a competitive edge to me, and to include that into fishing, you know, it was just like a huge fire lit underneath me. And at that, you know, about 7 years ago, when I kind of really started the tournament fishing, I was really going through, I wish I was in the Army, and I had a lot of things, you know, that really bothered me about the Army. I didn't really put two and two that it was, you know, PTSD, but it still bothered me, you know, day to day. But just really getting out there, you know, in God's country, getting away from everything, the peace and quiet, you know, I tell a lot of people that really saved me, kayak fishing, you know. So it was, I wanted to do it every weekend, you know, and which I have 3 kids, so it's kind of hard, you know, to do that. But, you know, my wife, she's real supportive, so, and she knows, you know, really how much it means to me. So, you know, I'm able to get out quite a bit, probably more than I should, but, you know, it really helps me with stress. You know, I'm really far away from PTSD now. And it helps me, you know, spread the gospel. You know, I can get out there and fish with guys that maybe not are so much Christians, but, you know, I can kind of tell them my story. And, you know, it really seems like when we're out, you know, way deep in God's country, you know, down in on a river, way away from everybody, you know, you can really start to talk to someone. Talking, you know, it really doesn't seem judgmental. We can kind of, you know, talk, and, you know, they can share their story a little bit, and you just really feel at ease, you know, on a kayak, fishing, having fun. We can just talk openly, and that's a really big thing that I love about kayak fishing.
Absolutely. So you've touched on it a lot already, but in a nutshell, if you would tell us what it is that you believe in.
You know, I've really been thinking about that question. I consider myself non-denominational. I grew up, you know, going to church with my mom, or, you know, mentors that were Southern Baptist. And I've kind of struggled to really classify what kind of type of Christian I am. So for me, I believe that, you know, I'm just a Christian in general. I'm a Christ follower. You know, I tell a lot of people I'm just a total surrender. You know, I've went through a lot of struggles in life, and I've really had to just totally surrender everything to God. You know, that was very tough to do. You know, I wanted to hold on to certain things that I wanted to control. But, you know, I had to learn to just totally surrender that. And, you know, I believe in a loving and compassionate God. You know, I don't really believe in a extremely punishable God. That's not what I want to focus on for me personally. You know, I love to focus on He loves me, you know, even through my struggles. He's very compassionate about me. Even I still struggle today with things. But yeah, I mean, in a nutshell, that's what I believe.
Absolutely. And if you would you tell us a story of how it is that you came to know Christ and to believe in Him?
Okay, all right. So when I was younger, like I said, I would go with mentors to church, and I always believed in God. I always, felt like I was saved, just because, I'd went through baptism. But I always heard people talk about, God spoke to me. I seen God. And for me, I always prayed, that if God spoke to me, then, that's when I would become a true Christ follower, of what I thought was the true Christ follower. And so I had went into the Army, and when I was in the Army, when we go in, we get a battle buddy, and that battle buddy, he it's a hard subject to talk about, but he we, as a battle buddy, we go through everything together. We go through basic, and we're stationed together. Well, he had developed some medical issues, and he took it really hard. And when he got the news, they were planning on discharging, and that was just too hard for him to deal with. And we was in our barracks, and they had given him, his medicine to, help him get better. And he committed suicide. And to watch that, and it really hit me emotionally really hard when that happened. And at that moment, I had dropped to my knees and crying and praying to God that, why is this happening? Can you give me a sign? I really need you right now. And he had, the paramedics had showed up, and they had brought him back to life. And just momentarily, just enough to get him to the hospital. And he did end up passing away at the hospital. But at that moment, I felt like, God had spoke to me in that moment, like, hey, I'm going to help, I'm going to, show you, that how I'm going to speak to you, he brought him back, that's what I was praying for, just please, save my friend, please bring him back, please bring him back. And that happened briefly. And, I had to do the whole, funeral duty and everything like that. And as soon as all that got over, I went straight to the chapel, and, I totally at that moment, I felt like I totally surrendered. And, I gave my life to Christ. But in that moment, to be honest, I still held on to lust. That was something that I just couldn't let go of. And, later on, once I got out of the Army, I met my wife, and, we got married. And a few years ago, me and her had some marital issues due to lust. And, it's not something that I'm proud of. It's something that I hate to admit, but I do admit it, just in hopes that it helps somebody else that's going through lust, and they can, maybe see that, hey, this guy, he owned up to it. and really, in that moment, me and my wife, we had split up, briefly, for a month or so, and that really hit me hard. And I remember I was staying in a motel room, and um, you know, I broke down in the shower. I was standing in the shower, and I just broke down, crying and pleading to God, tell me what to do. Like, I really need to, change this. And he, I just, in that moment, it was the first time in my life that I actually felt the Holy Ghost. I felt God's presence, and that's when I really decided that, I'm going to trust you. I'm going to release this one last thing to you to really help me out, to get over this. I totally surrendered, and I started going to our church, to a class called Celebrate Recovery. It's kind of like an AA class in a Christ form, and I owe it all to them guys. They welcomed me in with open arms. Really started mentoring me to really get over lust. I'm not going to say that I'm 100% over it. I still have my moments, but I'm a lot better. I trust myself that, in certain situations of lust, I can back away and, and control things, trusting that God's going to help me with it. And so, 3 years ago is really when I truly, really feel like I come to Christ.
Absolutely, man. That's a powerful story.
Yeah.
So, I know this is something that pretty much anybody who's ever attempted to walk in Christ can relate to. Anybody who's got that kind of one thing. What kind of advice do you have for them in terms of letting it go? Because it seems like everybody wants to let it go, but no one knows how, or no one's willing to.
Yeah.
What kind of advice do you have for that?
My advice is you definitely need a support system. You need a mentor, someone that will really hold you accountable, someone that you can be honest with, like my mentor, he's an assistant pastor, with our church, and I feel like I can tell him anything, something that happened during the day. I've seen something and maybe look at a woman, and I feel like I can tell him them things, and he's not going to judge me. He's not going to, go into the whole, well, God's going to punish you. He's one that will, support me, encourage me, send me scripture, at odd hours of the day, and we can get through it together. I think any man of Christ can honestly say that they've struggled with lust. It's a very common thing, or any or anything. It's alcohol and drug addiction, or all types, eating disorders and stuff. But my number one advice is get a support system. Someone that you can trust, someone that you don't feel like is going to tell everybody, all your, dark secrets, but someone that's going to love you and, support you and encourage you. For me, I also have my brother-in-law. We hold each other accountable on things, and we support and love each other. We really don't even consider ourselves brother-in-laws. We consider ourselves brothers,
For
and
sure.
and surround yourself with people that, are not full of lust or not full of drugs or not full of alcohol. You really need to support surround yourself with, good people. So,
Right. Absolutely. All right, man. So, what would you say it means to you to have faith?
to have faith, for me, it, honestly, it's become natural. Um, it means that I've done it so much that it's reputation, that I've so fully surrendered everything to God. Um, that I just automatically in the back of my mind, I just know that God's going to carry me through it. God's going to change the situation how He sees fit, maybe not how I see fit, because we can be selfish sometimes. But I just have faith that God is gonna handle the situation that He sees that. A lot of times, I don't really ask God to kind of change the situation, more change me to handle that situation better. So I just always feel like, God's got my back. God's got the situation under control. I might not agree with it, but, God's got it. So.
All right. Well, let's start transitioning things back towards fishing a little bit here.
Okay.
And to kind of help that transition along, are there any specific times out on the water that you can think of that have affected your faith in any way?
Oh, I would probably say that it's tough. I actually have a really good buddy of mine, and he's a Lynchburg city police officer, and we go fishing quite a bit. And we had I went to the KBF National Championship last year, and he didn't make it, but he wanted to go with me and just kind of take a vacation, get away from the police life, the stress. It really eats him up, with certain stuff that happened, on the police department. And so we went down there and we was down there for 7 days, and every day we're fishing, from sun up, sun down. And he before that he had really never kind of talked about faith. I really didn't push the issue. I'm not really one to really push faith on someone. But when we was down there, he kind of started talking, and that allowed me to kind of start talking to him and trying to help him with some of his issues, what kind of like what bothers him, his struggles with going to church, with him and his wife had struggled with the church about being hypocrites. And I really think that's a big problem, that I do hear a lot is certain churches being hypocrites. And so I would say that that really affected my faith in a really good way. It was really the first time that I've really got to reach out and kind of touch someone with my faith and my experiences and my past struggles, my testimony. And so since then, I've felt like it was a little easier to tell my story, to open up about my battle buddy killing it, with the suicide. And so that really allowed me to really, sharpen some other Christians or, people on the fence about, being Christian, and to sit back and watch, his story keep, building, over the last year or so. I've seen him and his wife have, taken their Christianity, to a whole new level. And for me, that really changed me as a Christian to really open up and, really talk with someone. Because, the first time you do it and then you see someone, their life kind of change before your hands, you're like, well, I want to do that again. I want to change this person's life. I want to help this person or that. So, that really changed me.
Absolutely. So, what fishing story or memory means the most to you?
Yeah. So I've thought about that. Really, like probably like my first win in a tournament. A little backstory to it. I had been really fishing a lot of tournaments, and I had let tournaments really get the pressure of it get a hold of me. I was doing so much research, so much what we call dock talk. What lures do you need to throw? I've never thrown some of these lures, and it had really got a whole lot of pressure on me. And I was getting ready to go to a tournament on the New River. So really high profile smallmouth river here in Virginia. And it was really a lot of good anglers that were really familiar with that river that was going to this tournament. And I was talking with my wife the night before. I had to get up at like 3 o'clock in the morning to go to the tournament, so I knew I was going to get to talk to her before the tournament. And we was laying there in bed and we was talking about it, and I was talking about what I was going to throw, where I was going to go, and she just really just looked at me and said, "Brandon, you just need to go out and have fun, throw what you love to throw," which for smallmouth, I love throwing a whopper plopper because I love top water. And so I was like, well, all right, I'm just going to take your advice. Yeah, I'm probably going to lose, a bunch of money, but I'm just going to, I'm going to go have fun. And so on the way to the river that morning, I had planned on fishing with a bunch of other guys. I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go like by myself. I know a spot where nobody else is going to go, and I'm just going to go have fun. And I went to the spot. It has 3 little ledges, and I just worked those ledges. I didn't move really up and down river more than 50 yards, all day. And I had so much fun that day. I had probably caught over 50 smallmouth that day. And I had lost a couple big ones, but I wasn't watching the standings. I was, just submitting my fish when I caught them. And normally I am a guy that watches the leaderboard, but that day I didn't even care about the leaderboard. I didn't care about winning. I was just having fun. And I come back to weigh in, and they started, like with 5th, and it was way. I knew how many inches I had. I knew I had like high 80s, and it was like 30s, for like 5th. And then it went up. It just seemed like all the way up to like 3rd place, everybody had horrible days. And like you got to 2nd place. 2nd place was like 71 inches. And, at that point I knew, that, man, I had a fantastic day, And so that was really a big day for me tournament wise. But really in fishing, um, I have a son. His name is Luke, and he he's 7 years old. And the last couple of years, he's gotten into fishing. And up until this year, I would cast for him, and he would work it in, and he'd catch little bass and stuff every now and then. But a couple of weeks ago, well, about a month ago, he had bought his first. He actually saved up his money and bought his own fishing rod. We went to the tackle store, and he bought what he wanted. And it was the next day we went fishing at a little local pond. We got up the road, and he had caught like and he had been working in the yard casting, and so he casted. This day he was casting his own, and I think it was about his 10th cast. He caught a 2-pound largemouth, and for him that was his personal best, And so he was all tickled to death. And then it was like the next cast after that, my cast, I hooked into one, and as soon as I hooked it, I knew it was a really good one. And it was a 5-10 minute fight or something like that. And it'd come up with the big head shakes and see a mouth on it, you could fit both fists in. And he's over there. I'm looking at him, and he's shaking, and I'm shaking while we're getting it in. And I finally land it. The whole time I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm going to lose this fish, and he's going to be mad at me. And I finally got it in, and we just sat there on our knees, just staring at each other with our mouth wide open, hands shaking. And to experience that with my son, that just, it meant the world to me. And, I know that that's going to really fuel passion, for him to go out and, catch big fish. And, he was just wanting to catch a brim, wanting to catch a little bass, catch a bunch of fish. Now, like, he just wants that one big one. And, so, he's constantly talking about, Dad, where's the lake that has all the big ones? I want to go catch the biggest one. And so the last week or so has been very dramatic on looking at lakes and looking where the big fish are, and so that's probably, in general, my fishing, that's probably, my greatest fishing story.
For sure. All right, man. So this next question, I asked my fishing buddy to come up with a question for the podcast that he's never heard anyone else ask on any interviews with fishermen, and this is what he came up with. So, whenever you're out fishing with somebody, be it a fishing buddy or somebody else, what is your typical conversation centered around?
Well, honestly, it usually is about something, kind of a little drama going on in the fishing industry, whether it's like with a certain person or companies joining together. So usually it's about drama. That's kind of like our opening conversation. We'll get to the boat ramp, we're loading up boats, and we're like, hey, did you see this, or do you see what this person posted on Facebook? What do you think about that? And so usually it turns into a funny conversation. Not really, spreading gossip, but just, talking about something with our, about our other kayak anglers or, kayak series, something that's been going on recently.
All right. And you mentioned you're a father. What life advice do you wish that you had been able to start off with and that you want to make sure to pass along with your kids?
Uh, Well, I wish, as a kid, my parents really um, forced on me to really surround yourself with good people. Um, like you are who your friends are. Um, I struggled with that in my earlier years of life, and it really made me who they were. Um, you know, a lot of my buddies, from the army or even high school buddies, they were women chasers, you know, um, messing with a lot of women. I never really surrounded myself with, people that done drugs or alcohol, but it was kind of the women partiers kind of guys, and that kind of really made me that way. And um, it's something that like I drill into my son and my daughter. You know, if you really want to be a good person, you need to be friends with people who are good people. Um, and I use my friends that come around. Um, they're all outstanding guys, and my kids really see that. Um, one of my really good friends is a cop. One of my really good friends is a firefighter. Um, you know, a preacher. I really try to surround myself with good people now, and I show my kids that. So I really wish my my parents really forced that on me. Growing up.
Awesome. So, to flip it around, what fishing advice do you wish you had been able to start off with, and that you're quick to pass on to others?
Um, don't really get into the dock talk. Um, what I mean with the dock talk is, you look online and this certain person is, whether they're promoting or, um, trying to really get everyone to use this certain lure or saying that you need to throw this at this time. Um, fish your confidence. Find you a few lures or types of presentation that you really feel comfortable with. Um, like for me, I'm a fluke fisherman. I love a fluke, and I can fish it several different ways. And I feel like I can throw it in a pothole filled with water on the road, and I can probably catch a fish. So really fish your confidence, and venture out a little bit. Um, but when it boils down to it, tournament wise, or you're really trying to catch some fish your confidence and stick with it. Don't get caught up in the dock talk.
Absolutely. And I know you're mainly a bass fisherman, but what fish sits at the top of your bucket list that you want to be able to catch?
Um, Probably a peacock bass. Even though it's in the bass family, it's a little different. They're more of a tropical type of fish, and I think we have some down in Florida, down in southern Florida, but like the Amazon. For me to really like fish the Amazon is really a bucket lister. Um, I, I I'm a topwater lover, and so I really want to fish for peacock. Topwater wise, I've seen the old videos, the old TV shows of them catching peacocks on top water, and for me that is the top of the pinnacle of fishing for me.
For sure. And Is there a particular fishing spot? I know you mentioned the Amazon. Would that be the top of the spots list, or is there one that
Yeah,
sits higher?
Amazon for like different species of fish, but probably my my number one would body of water would especially for bass. I would love to go down to some of them bigger lakes down there in Mexico and catch some of those giants. I want to say one of the lakes is like called Lake El Sato, but seeing a lot of the old TV shows that are going down there throwing big swim baits and catching those, like an 8 pounder is a dink to them,
Right.
and yeah, I would love to go down there in Mexico and fish some of those big lakes. They're beautiful water, and really big fish.
Heck yeah, man. So we're going to go into a segment here we call What's Your Favorite? It's pretty self explanatory. I'm going to ask you your favorite in a few different categories.
Okay.
All right. So do you have a favorite scripture?
So my favorite scripture is Proverbs 27:17. It's kind of how I base my life is iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. It kind of fits into my whole life. I surround myself with good people, and I really need people in my life to help me in my journey with Christ. Um, so that is a scripture that I think about daily. Every morning, I have it on my dashboard, and it's something to remind me. I need to either use someone to be sharpened today, or I need to sharpen someone else today. And so yeah, that's my favorite.
Awesome. What about a favorite Bible story?
Um, I would. Ooh, hmm, I would probably say, like early John. It's so emotional to me. About you know, like John 3:16. Um, just the early part of John is so emotional, and I can really see, how much God, loves us. Um, I really like the emotional parts of the Bible, because it really shows me how much of a loving God we have, and um, it really fuels my love for Christ. Um, in the early part of John.
For sure. All right. So what's your favorite fish to catch?
I would definitely say a smallmouth. Normally during the summer months and fall, just mainly because of top water. It is just something about a smallmouth being, way off down deep in the river. Um, we're lucky with a lot of our rivers, are deep in the mountains, and so to just, see God's country, be way away from the world, you don't even, hear a car, and to catch a smallmouth on top water, and they're the most, ferocious bass there is. Uh, yeah, the smallmouth is definitely right up there.
For sure. And having done quite a few of these interviews so far, I can definitely say you're not alone in that. And
Yeah.
every time I hear someone talk about catching a smallmouth, it moves further and further up my bucket list. Because I'm from eastern North Carolina, I'm used to fishing swamps, not rivers and big lakes. So it keeps jumping up there for sure.
Well, you'll have to come up and fish with us, most definitely.
Absolutely, man. And so, what's your favorite fish to fish for?
Oh, it is Yeah, definitely smallmouth. Um, um, like I said, just being, on the river catching the smallmouth is just second to none. I mean, uh, I've been after, a citation smallmouth for forever, and I've been so close. I've been, 19 3/4 because our citations are 20 inches.
Okay.
And, I've been at that 19 3/4 and 19 and seems like 15, 16, just forever. And I just cannot stretch it. So, yeah.
For sure. And what's your favorite fish to eat?
Ooh, favorite fish to eat. Surprisingly, we go to the beach every year for a week down at Myrtle Beach, and usually, me and my brother-in-law will go out fishing with a fishing guide, and nobody ever wants to keep the shark for some reason. And so, for me, I absolutely love eating shark. It's just something about it. Maybe it's catching the shark and the whole process, and being almost the king of the ocean. I love them. I cook them several different ways. I do like the nuggets. I deep fry them. I cook them on a grill. But yeah, I love shark.
Absolutely. I really like shark too. Is there a particular shark that you like more than others?
No, it's kind of weird though. I've caught several different types, like the hammerhead and the sand sharks, which is kind of the most common, you catch. They really don't taste that much different to me. So yeah, just in general, every shark I've ever, or type of shark I've ever cooked, usually all tastes about the same, and very delicious. I love it, with a lot of Cajun seasoning, deep fried. I marinate it with Worcestershire and cook it on the grill. Um, everyone who eats it, usually really loves it.
Absolutely. And while we're on the subject of food, what's your favorite fishing snack?
Mm, I probably get a lot of mess for this, but uh, I know it's a kind of a big sin in the fishing world, but I love eating bananas on the water. I have a banana with me majority of the time I go fishing, especially in the summer. I've always kind of had a bad problem with cramps, and I eat a lot of bananas on the water. And usually, whenever I have a banana in the boat, I usually catch some really good fish. So I don't really believe in it, bad mojo with the whole banana deal. But yeah, I love banana.
Okay, absolutely. That's not one I've been brave enough to try out on the water yet, but
Yeah, try it out. You won't regret it.
all right. And I won't ask for any GPS coordinates or secret spots or anything, but what's your favorite body of water to fish?
Um, it's I try to keep it a secret a lot, but you being from North Carolina, it's in North Carolina, but it's Lake Roundaman. I absolutely love that lake. It is some very big fish in that lake, and it when I grew up fishing, in my mom, she had lived in North Carolina, and I'd go down there and fish her pond, and I would always throw the watermelon, Zoom, curly tail, Texas grape, and just really just slay them into ponds, down there in North Carolina like that. And I've been to Roundaman. It's not that really far from me. It's about an hour and a half, and I every time I go, I throw that same technique, and it is it's just something special about that lake. I like fishing wood, and there's a lot of wood on it, and they really love wood on that lake. And everyone tries to keep it a secret, but it's it, it's my favorite lake that I've ever fished in the whole country.
Absolutely. Um, Now I have the difficult task of deciding whether or not there's going to be technical difficulties, and I'm just going to have to keep that to myself, or what.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right, man. So, last but not least, what's your favorite time of year to fish?
Mm, I love um, late summer, early fall. You know, it seems not a lot of um, guys really fish that time of year because it's really hot. But to really get out there, as the sun's coming up, as the sun's going down, and being the prime times, um, I'm a sunrise, sunset lover, and just being out there on the lake, um, being closer to God and seeing God's work with the sunrise and sunset. Man, it's nothing like it. That's for me. That first 30 minutes of the day, that last 30 minutes of the day, that's heaven on earth for me, man. Absolutely heaven on earth.
For sure. Well, awesome, man. So we're gonna start wrapping things up. If you would, let us know what's upcoming for you.
Well, we got this COVID going on, but like with our series, we've had to cancel our first two tournaments. We're gonna make those up with the online. We're gonna have a couple onlines during the year to make those tournaments up. But for me, man, it's just getting out with guys that I normally don't get to fish with, one on one, and keeping my social distancing when we're fishing. But get out there and fish with those guys. Get better. I've always struggled during the spring, and so it's really not my time of the year. And so to really get out there and get better for next season, spring, that's what I'm focusing on right now. And as soon as things get lifted, I'm fishing the KBF, and so waiting for that to get lifted. Randleman is on the schedule, so I'm itching to get there. I'm hoping that stays true. We'll be up on the Potomac this year. That's going to be really exciting to get up there and fish some tidal water. And then our regional championship is here on Smith Mountain Lake. So, being my home water, I fish it probably about close to maybe 75, 100 days out of the year, especially at night. I fish it a lot at night. So to really get on the big stage on my home water, that's my goal for the year.
All right. And do you have any sponsors or supporters that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Yeah, I think you had Brian from Journey Outdoors on the show. Journey Outdoors is out of Lexington. They're a huge supporter of mine, and I support them, 100%. It's a fantastic. I don't really even call it it is technically a sponsor, but I call them family. They're amazing people, great Christ followers. They're really huge for me in the industry. I have Jinko Fishing that supports me, K9 Fishing Line. So I try to keep it with the Christ-based companies, and try to keep it a family ordeal. I really don't think of them as sponsors. We're just Christ family, and support each other and love each other, during the season.
For
And
sure.
of course, my wife. I tell everybody she's my number one sponsor. She supports me in any endeavors that I decide I'm going down. Actually getting ready to, we're going to start our own little lure business, making some various lures and weights and stuff. And we're really excited about that and keeping that, Christ-based. And it's going to be a big journey for us, learning a lot and spreading some gospel in the meantime. So
that's awesome.
That's definitely my wife and my family is, right up there for me. My biggest supporters. They've been with me through thick and thin, and looking forward to the journeys of the rest of 2020.
Yeah, man. And if our listeners want to get in touch with you or follow you on social media or sign up for your tournaments, how do they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook, Brandon Overstreet. I also the Bass Cast Kayak Bass Series stage. That's our series. We also have a website that's just the Bass Cast, and we it's real easy to get a hold of me there. So yeah, just you can find me on there. You can find me on the Bernie website. Under sponsored anglers, and it's pretty easy to find me.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much for coming on and for your transparency, sharing your story with us. Had a blast, man.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you a lot. I really look forward to seeing how far this podcast goes. It's something that we've really needed in the industry, and so I appreciate you a lot taking on this. Of course, we have a lot of kayak podcasts, but to have one with Christ and based on Christ and fishing, it's definitely awesome. Listen to on the way to and from work. Very refreshing. So I really appreciate you taking on that on, man.
Again, I want to thank Brandon for opening up and sharing his heart with us. If you want to find out more about Brandon and his tournament trail, the Bass Cast Kayak Bass Series, I will have links in the show notes where you can find them. If you want to find out how to order some of your own amazing 413 lures, the link is always in the show notes, so go show Brandon some love. Again, thank you all for listening, and don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Y'all take care, and God bless. Thanks for listening to the Faith and Fishing Podcast. If you like this episode, please give it a rating, a review, and make sure to subscribe on whatever app you're listening to so you never miss an episode. You can follow the podcast on social media at facebook.com/faithandfishingpodcast and Instagram at faithandfishingpod. Special thanks and a big shout out to our show sponsor, 413 Lure Company, to Jonathan Enthalancy for helping me write, play, and record the music for the show, and to Tyler Worrell, the graphic designer behind our amazing logo. If you have any questions about faith, I encourage you to contact a pastor in your community. Thanks again for tuning in, and until next time, get out there and catch some fish, and I will catch you on the next episode.